Hello everyone, welcome back. I just recently finished reading the Tools of Titans and I did a review of the entire book, but there's a lot of things I'd like to highlight, but this specifically is one thing that I really want to touch on right now. It's an article, I don't know if you want to call it an article or however you want to call it, but Tim Ferriss, the author, writes these kind of like passages and inserts them into the book at appropriate times. And these are things that still may be derived from his podcast interviews and such, but it's kind of in his own words too. So this is an exercise called fear setting. It's like a thought exercise basically, and I'm paraphrasing and I'm going to very briefly summarize it. There's a lot more to this than what I'm going to say, but just to give you tidbits. Some exercises. So when you're thinking about doing something, think to yourself, first of all, what is it like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Right? Then say in the absolute worst case scenario, if you fail at said thing, what's the outcome? What he does in the article that makes it so great is that he actually gives you a first person account of the thought process that he, or I think it was, I don't remember if it's him. I don't remember if it's him or like another person he's talking about who told them that hits this, but he actually broke down like segment by segment, piece by piece. If for whatever reason this doesn't work out and I lost all my money, then I'd have to do this, this, and this. So it would be like, oh, I'd have to eat less luxurious or less whatever costly foods. I'd have to live whatever, but I'd still be alive. So it's like thinking about almost saying like planning in the event of like that you ended up losing your whole income and all your money. Planning that scenario, what would you actually do? Think about that. Another thing that he does, this is more extreme. I don't know if it's from this specific chapter, but I do know he mentioned it, is like going through like this humbling process every so often, every month or every few months, where he kind of cuts himself off from like the luxurious or the extra fluff in life and living on like, the absolute essentials, like sleeping on the floor. You don't have to take it to the ultimate extreme levels, but like just reminding yourself things like, what you have versus what you didn't have, and then realizing that when you do live out the quote unquote humbling experience, it's actually not as terrible as we perceive it to be. Therefore, if you don't fear it, you'll be more likely and more inclined to act on your ambitions because you don't fear the failure, because it's like, oh, I can deal with that if that happens and I'll bounce out of that, no problem. So you're putting the mind frame in that it's not as bad as it seems if I do fail. I'm not going to actually like physically die. That's kind of how that works. And then on the fear setting exercises is things like that, thinking about humbling experiences or acting on humbling experiences, thinking about what's the worst that can happen, thinking about like financially where you're at, what do you need financially right now to survive, and then what would like the risk going forward of taking on the action that you want to take on, what would that do to set you back, and like could you actually manage to achieve that like level of minimalist income while you're working on your passion project, your passion business, your passion whatever, and then substitute that substitute the income that you make from your job per se, living on within your means, but you're now pursuing something that you're passionate about, more likely to grow it, more time to focus on it, and you're not drained by the mundane experience of having to go to work or whatever. If you enjoy your job, it's different. I'm not knocking anybody who enjoys their job. I'm just saying, if you're thinking about taking on something new and the reason that you're not doing it is because you're scared, then these are ways to deal with that possible fear, trying to rationalize it, and then understanding that making a substitute of your income, understanding what you actually need versus what you want. When you can cover what your actually base needs are and you realize how little you actually need if you try to eliminate the fluff in your life, it's actually not that hard to make a substitute and work on something you're passionate about Granted that you have some kind of cash flow coming in and working on. One thing I did recently was actually I opted to take public transportation. Toronto Transit Commission in Toronto, TTC. I used to take it all the time. I have nothing against it, but like I have a car and I hadn't taken the TTC in a long time, so I just chose to, and I just felt like, you know, like if I didn't have a car, it wouldn't be ideal, it wouldn't be convenient, but it wouldn't be like the end of the world. And that's what the reminder is, going back on the humbling yourself experience. And I felt like, I actually felt good. I felt like you know, oh, what, like let's say the worst case is I have to give up my car. I could manage my life still. That's an example. And that's what I'm trying to say. So, moving forward, if fear is crippling you or fear is stalling you, and your biggest worry is what are you gonna, like, you're gonna lose certain things, think about what that loss will actually, how it will impact your life and your survival, and think about what's important. Like, if the thing that you want is really important, maybe short-term pain for long-term gain. These are all cliches, but if you actually physically live it out and think about it, instead of just like saying the cliches and whatever, but if you actually like live it out and realize that it's actually manageable, then that fear of the loss and failure becomes more minimal. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that topic. Again, Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans, that specific chapter is called My Favorite Thought Exercise, Fear Setting. Definitely buy this book because it's a great reference. Again, I said it before, you don't have to read through it start to finish. It's a good thing to reference on when I don't know what to do in this situation. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Please like if you liked it. Please comment if you have anything to say about the book if you've read it. And please subscribe if you liked my content and you'd like to see more. And as always, let's keep growing together, guys. Take care.